Are you a red flag? Or perhaps, maybe, you're a green flag?
Now, this is the main question for today, because sometimes it's tough to tell. So in this episode, we're talking all about red flags and green flags.
Welcome back to the Just Men podcast. I'm joined by my fellow friend,
Jeremy, and I'm all joined by my fellow friend,
Byron Rose Kelly. So we're back again to talk about all things manly, masculinity in the modern age. And this week we have a fun topic around red flags and green flags in people, Jeremy.
Oh, yeah. So we were talking about this morning, like, what are we talking about, Byron? And then we kind of got onto the topic of, people that we've been associated with. It was like, oh, I should have seen that coming. And then it's like, oh, wait, but I exhibit those habits as well. So we thought it'd be fun to do maybe it's a bit of an opinion episode. Maybe it's a bit of a factual episode, depending on the way that you look at it. But we're going to list down a bunch of common red flags and green flags in other people, both in like romantic relationships and in friendships, but also within ourselves.
Amen.
So that's what we're talking about. As usual, if you're just tuning in for the first time, welcome. If you're coming back because you like our vibe, welcome back. Lovely to have you back with us. Just a quick reminder. If you want to support us in what we do, we've got a Patreon called the Just Men Podcast Patreon, where for the cost of a cup of Australian coffee, you can support us in what we do so we can keep making fun episodes like this, stay on the air, and you can keep listening to us on your morning run, on your drive, on your wherever else you like listening.
Or you can watch us on the computer.
Watch on the computer, because we're recording a video of our faces talking to each other, so if you prefer to put a voice to a face, then you can also do that too. Anyway, Let's kick this off. Byron, red flags. Yes. What's what's in your experience have been some red flag habits that you've seen in other people that you think, oh, I hope that ain't me, or I hope I don't, get close to someone who's like that, because I don't want that energy in my life.
I'll start with a nice simple one. I think when you're having a conversation, Jeremy, and we're all trying to, engage in some sort of way and add the value that we can there, and one person decides to talk over the top of someone else about whatever it is that's important to them, and they just forget about the person who was actually having that conversation, or their experience is more important that we all must hear it and accept it. That to me is like straight away, I sit there and go, oh, I don't know how I feel about that. You don't give a shit about the people who are around here except for yourself. Yeah. So that's a red flag for me. Big red flag.
I think for me personally as well, it's I think it's just a common thing to, just showing common courtesy to people around you by default. It shouldn't be, I'm only going to be nice to this person because they're an important CEO of something, or they're someone who means a lot. But man, just being kind to people in your day-to-day life, whether it be like the coffee store owner, the old guy walking down the road, the bus driver, and just having a bit of empathy for the people around you. It's just, I don't know, it's not a big green flag, but by default, it should just be what the common human experience is. But
well, do you know what is a green flag in that respect, though?
Yeah.
Like, because I do sometimes, and I know we'll talk about red flags within ourselves, I sometimes do, I don't know if it's like my brain goes, must speak, right? But sometimes I'll talk over the top of somebody, or I'll point something out or whatever, but I always make a very conscious effort to come back around and be like, I am so sorry, what were you saying? Like, you were just talking about this. So, because you see it in people, when they get talked over, they just start to shut down.
Yeah.
And you can see the deflation in them where they're like, oh.
Guess they don't really care about what I have to say, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's like when I do that to someone, I feel so shitty about what I've just done. So I'm like, all right, I'm sorry, please. You were just talking about, fire trucks. Please tell me more about the fire trucks. And then you sort of see them like, oh, wait, what? I get to talk again? Oh, fire trucks. And you're like, oh, okay. So if somebody does cut somebody off, and there are various reasons that it's happening or whatever. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not so good. But when they bring it back around, they're like, oh, hey, please continue. I'd love to hear what you have to say again. For me, that's a big tell. I'm like, good job. This is a behavior. It means you're conscious of how the other person is feeling, or you're interested in what they have to say. And that's a good green flag.
It's funny because I noticed as a newborn, a lot of green flags pop up when we talk. So it's one of those things. But it's interesting because we had a conversation the other night just among us as friends, right? And there was like not even a debate, but it was more just a discussion of opposing points, which we were trying to communicate, just different levels of understanding. And sometimes when there's a debate or sometimes when there's a disagreement of, oh, look, this is what I believe in. Oh, but I actually believe this. Okay, why do you believe that? It can sometimes get heated because people are very passionate about things, and sometimes people will unknowingly say something harmful to the other person. However, something that you did, which I thought was exactly what you just said, was it wasn't said, oh, sorry for interrupting, but you acknowledged their point of view in a way that, hey, look, this is kind of what I have seen and this is what I believe. I'm not sure I 100% get where you're coming from, but I appreciate, I acknowledge the facts that, you know, you looked at it in this way, and that does make sense to me. So, you know, it's not necessarily saying, yes, I'm going to forget everything that I believe in because you're right and I'm wrong. But it's more just like, you know what? I hear you. I'm listening and I see where you're coming from and I respect that fact. And I think in any discussion, especially if it's one where you don't especially disagree, just being able to confirm or just being able to reinforce their beliefs as different but not necessarily incorrect, I think that's a pretty big thing because, again, it's not admitting that you're wrong, and I think admitting you're wrong is a big green flag as well. But, you know, just being able to have that civil discourse with somebody to the point in which it remains a discussion and doesn't become an argument or anything further. It's funny too because this discussion was between Byron and my partner, and she even asked me afterwards, like, "Oh, I hope I didn't come across too strongly. I hope they don't hate me or anything."
I said the same thing.
You said the same thing as well. So, but in the same way, I think the fact that you both were kind of not worried, but just wary that, oh, I hope I didn't come across as this way because that wasn't my intention. You know, it was just a discussion, and I hope that's all it really was in the end because I didn't want it to be anything further. So, to me, for both of you, big green flags is the fact that you were, you know, concerned about the other person's well-being. I think that's quite nice.
Yeah, it was in respect to that. I think because again, you can disagree with people. You don't have to necessarily see eye to eye on everything. But constructive conversation is one of the biggest green flags that I see, because if you can hold that and still walk away with like your own values intact and not upsetting anybody else and making them feel negative about an interaction, then more power to you. But yeah, that was a really good conversation to have. And like the fact that your partner was like, oh no, she's got nothing to worry about at all. So it was, in fact, like one of the best people to have a conversation with. So, I mean,
I'm glad. I'll be sure to pass that
big
on
tip
too.
for her. Please do. That was really good.
I'm glad. Because I think it really is a rare thing to be able to, I guess in this day and age, be able to have those kinds of conversations in a civil way, because it sucks when we do see conversations online. They're very skewed one way or another. And it's I think it's very difficult to, you know, have two people from opposing ends, especially in politics, right? Sit down and try and see the other person's viewpoint without instantly going, no, you're wrong and I'm right.
Yeah.
So I think anyone who is kind of able to sit down and have that open discourse, probably the word I'm looking for here, is a big green flag.
Well, just to like add into a next red flag, it's the inability to kind of empathize with somebody else's situation when you do disagree with them.
Yeah.
Right. Like, again, I'm not saying that people need to like each other, but at the end of the day, most people are not malicious in the way that they act.
Yeah.
Right. If they are malicious, then that's a different story, right? But if there's no malintent and you as an individual decide, nah, screw this person, I'm going to make sure I destroy them because they disagree with me, then that's a red flag within yourself.
Yeah.
And it's really gross to see, like from an outside perspective, because you instantly, like I will see some people and I'm just like, oh, I will not deal with you. Like, I don't like the way that you conduct yourself. And if you decide to grow up in the future, maybe we can have a new conversation. But at this present point in time, you're not a human that I wish to interact with.
Yeah.
Because it's just energy I don't require. So I don't know if that's a red flag for myself, but
Look, it's interesting. I think as we get older, and especially as I've looked into social dynamics more and more, that's just become something I'm really interested in and learning more about. It's something I always have to do a lot of self-reflection on, in terms of, am I being too abrupt? Am I being a little bit too judgmental when I meet somebody new, I can pretty much suss out the vibe within a few minutes of I'm going to get along with this person or I'm not going to get along with this person. And if I think there's like a pretty set criteria of like we will not get along. Maybe we'll get along, or we will get along. And that comes down to vibes more than anything else. Doesn't matter about your background or your job or anything like that.
Yeah.
And for example, we talked about this morning. I went to my sister's, my nephew's birthday party. He's 2 years old, and I met some of her friends who also have kids. Lovely people, but I, just like Byron, I'm a creative. I'm not exactly following a traditional career path. Trying to build this coaching business. I'm a cosplayer, still renting at the moment. I'm not intending on having a 9 to 5, buy a house, settle down, kids, everything done by 30 because I'm in mid 30s now.
Well, you already missed that boat, right?
Yeah, I missed that boat. So, but to that, I talk to these people and it's like, oh yeah, cool. I've got a job. Sometimes we go out on the weekends to the park, maybe to a cafe.
Yeah.
What are your goals? It's like, oh, I don't know. Maybe have a second kid, I suppose. I don't know, possibly, I don't know. But, not that that's a bad thing. If that's what you're after, then excellent. But the people, obviously, that I enjoy talking to, they've got some interesting hobby. They love, going out and trying different things. They're really passionate about something. They've got a goal. They're driven to, try and pursue these things because that's just, to me, very interesting. I think that's really, really cool to see. I find that's a really attractive quality. And obviously, I sussed out that in a conversation about 3 minutes, 4 minutes flat because the second that you kind of start talking about like, oh, what did you do for work? Oh yeah, I do this for work. The second you pull up like the work conversation, it's like, not a red flag, but it's like, okay, I don't think that there's going to be a vibe here. Unless, of course,
all right not to be on the same level.
Yeah, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But I had to think to myself, is it a red flag for me to kind of be judgmental or just kind of suss out we're not going to get along? But I had to come to realize within myself, no, that's just me growing as a person, knowing my values, knowing the kind of people that I get along with, and choosing to continue to engage with people who, I guess, are on the same wavelength as me, and not engaging with the people that are not. So,
and I would say that's a green flag, Jeremy.
Yeah, that's like
You're
boundaries.
Self-aware.
Right? Yeah,
there you
go.
Boundary setting's a green flag. Oh God, but we can get all into that one. That's fun.
Oh dear. Now, how about let's talk about relationships for a little bit, because I think when we come to red flags and green flags, I think it's very easy to talk about. We talk about friends. Talk about if this person is mean to me, or this person doesn't support me. We could say red flag, but it could be a clash of values. It could be a bunch of different things. But in relationships, we hope that with every relationship that we enter, and subsequently some of them end, we learn from these things. We learn, this is what I like in a person. This is what I don't like in a person. This is something I definitely don't agree with in a person. And this is something I absolutely adore in a person. So to you, Byron, what are some, let's start off with the negative. What are some red flags in someone who's a potential romantic partner? What are some that really stand out to you?
Really stand out?
Yeah.
I'll start with the most simple one. I think anybody who at the start of a relationship will not stop talking about their ex, perhaps is not ready for a relationship. I know that's like the lowest hanging fruit possible, but that one is for me immediately like, oh no. Like I don't.
Let's dive into these a little bit, because some people are like, yep, I agree. But let's ask the question, why? Why is that actually a red flag?
And especially for dudes. Like, why do we think it happens more for guys? Because I don't know, like I'm not a woman. I don't know what the female experience is like a lot. And to be fair, I haven't really dated that much. I've only had a couple of people in my life that can even get close to being considered a partner. I have a lovely one now, and she was all green flag at the start. So,
and how about now? Is it just slowly creeping up with those red flags? That's what's happening?
Just like raising the red flag. She's looking at me right now. I might be in trouble after this one. No, green flags all the way along. But I do know of lots of stories where, that's people like, oh my God, it just doesn't stop. And, I'm kind of a bit worried that this is not going to work out, because if someone keeps talking about somebody else, they're on your mind.
Of course.
Right? It's like, so But yeah. What were you going to say? Sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's okay. I was kind of curious just to figure out why you believe talking about an ex is a red flag. And to most obvious people, the most obvious thing to most people is, it just means that they're not over their partner. And I think that's definitely a big part of it. And because if you keep talking about them, you're not over them yet, and you're not quite literally emotionally available to be in another relationship, right?
Yeah.
But I think another thing it does reflect as well, if you keep talking about them, you're going to be talking about, more obviously, the bad things about them, right?
Yeah.
And regardless of if it's an ex-partner or if it's a friend or if it's, your parents or whatever it is, I think just the facts that, especially if you first meet someone and one of the conversation topics is just to talk badly about other people, it really reflects you as a person. It shows that, you are someone who likes to just be, this, telltale or talk badly about people or not supportive. Because...
Well, the thing I always think on that, just quickly, is if the first interactions that I have with someone are them telling me negative things, I then think, what are they then doing with other people, right?
Yeah.
Like, so that Joe Blow, who they've just complained about, let's say, they go back to Joe Blow and then they're likely to be complaining about something else, i.e. me, to them, potentially. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's not good.
So, no, I think that's pretty much what it reflects at the end of the day, is they're not obviously past their ex-partner, so they're not ready for another relationship, but at the same time, there's someone who would choose to talk negatively about the people around them. So, I don't know, I think it's not necessarily a green flag as such if you do talk to someone who doesn't talk about their ex-partners, because at the end of the day, if you have or haven't had past relationships, the people that you interact with shape your life experience, and it's obviously going to affect you in 100%. Some way, shape, or form. But it shouldn't be in a way that all you do is just talk badly. And it's like, I'm like this because of this reason, because of this person, and this happened. And
yes, blaming is not good. But with respect to the flip side of that, right? So the green flag aspect of, because we can't just not talk about previous relationships and things that have happened.
It's part of your life experience. Yeah.
Correct. So it's then, how does that conversation take place, and in what manner, is it held? I remember back at the start of my current relationship, we had a very, and it was, I guess, nerve-wracking for each individual party, right? It's like, hey, just wanted to make you aware of, this, so that you don't hear it from anybody else. This is everything that I can, tell you about it, or tell you about this or these people. And it's done in sort of I don't know, bite-sized pieces as well, when it's relevant.
When it's relevant.
Right? It's not like, oh, my ex-boyfriend, he did this, that, blah, 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 and let me keep telling you about him for the next, fucking 4 weeks, and it's like...
And this is what's happened, and this is why I'm triggered, and this is what I'm trauma bonded over, and this is why I need to keep talking about. It's like, whoa. Let's take
Slow down there.
Let's take it slowly. So I think... I'd like to think it's common sense, but maybe it's not. And if there's a good way to approach it, I think the best way that you can approach anything that's when the topic comes up, it's like, so what's your dating experience like? You can it's like, I dated XYZ for a number of years, but it ended here for a variety of reasons. This didn't really work out. But this is where I am now. And that's all the first conversation really should be.
Yep.
And maybe over time, if there's a vibe, you guys kind of get to know each other a bit better. There's going to come points in time in which, there's something which you get reminded of, or something which affects you in a negative way because of a past experience with your ex-partner. And at that point in time, you might mention it. It's like, we're going to go to the bakery. Cool. It's like, all right, cool, let's go to the bakery. I was like, just thought I'd let you know. It's something that, me and my partner used to do quite a bit. And, just bakeries aren't usually my favorite places to go. It's, I think it's time that I, try to visit another bakery because, it's kind of a new chapter. So I just thought I'd let you know about that. It's something as simple as that.
You can get another green flag, red flag tell here too, because how that conversation is received is a big tell.
That's a good one.
It's like, what? You don't want to go to this bakery because your ex-boyfriend? Oh, well, you're bad, right? How dare you? I don't know. It's my little desperate. It's like, scratching my head.
Oh dear.
But
no, you're right.
Or they say like, or the other side, right? Sorry, go.
No, I was just going to say that's a really good thing to bring up. It's how was that received by the other person, and it shouldn't be. Oh, I told them about my trauma with this person, and they didn't listen. It is a two-way street. It is a two-way street, and a lot of it is being aware of how intense am I being with this conversation, and how intense the other person being, because they could be responding with the same energy that you're giving them. So
Correct.
I don't think that there's a definitive yes or no, right or wrong answer, because we don't see every conversation you have. But it just
You wouldn't want us to.
you have your own conversations and you make your own judgments, because that's what it's all about. But no, overall, I think that's a big one. It's not being too hung up on your ex-partners or ex-experiences or old experiences, and letting that impact you, I suppose, too much. But no, that's a big one, I think. I think another one that I've come to learn, Byron, is the amount of investment, I suppose, when you meet someone new. Okay.
Okay.
Now,
so this is
let me explain. So, as guys, I think we get very caught up with the idea of like, oh, pretty girl. Let's go and talk to her. This is going to be a bit nerve-wracking. Ooh. But because you're already attracted to them, there's already some level of investment saying, oh, I need to impress them. I need to buy them a drink. I need to make sure the conversation goes really well. But the second it doesn't go well, maybe they've already got a boyfriend. Maybe they're just not interested. Maybe they're just not having a good night. And they say, look, I don't want to talk. Instantly, we'll go like, oh, well, shit, what a poo brain. How dare they? Like, what the hell? I'm all this.
You rejected me?
You rejected me? Right, exactly. Or maybe it does go okay, right? And after that, you're like, oh, cool. We talk for a few minutes, exchange details. Cool, let's go out for a date or something sometime. That'd be great. And maybe they don't reply back. Maybe they it sounds like, oh, look, sorry, not that interested. And you get upset or you get grumpy. But maybe the red flag here isn't investment. It's the reaction to something.
I mean, there could be a case made for a red flag around overinvesting.
Overinvesting too early, I think.
Guys who go like, or girls who go really, really hard.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like,
actually, that's a good point. Yeah, two separate pieces, because you can meet someone that's like, oh, yes, this is our first date. Yes, I'm thinking about marriage. Yes, I'm thinking about all the trips.
When are we having babies?
And it's like, whoa, let's take it back. It could be a difference in values, perhaps, but I think for myself, and I think for most people, because you barely know someone, you shouldn't be investing too much of your time, your thoughts, your energy into someone who you barely know. It should be like, oh, like we kind of met. Let's see how this goes. Let's kind of, get closer bit by bit. But in the same way, you shouldn't be overly investing into someone who's not willing to also give you that same energy back.
Yeah.
Right? Because
agreed.
If they don't give you that energy back, then why bother? It's not exactly a red flag, but you shouldn't be investing or over-investing your thoughts, your time, your energy into someone who's not going to give you that same energy back, because I can guarantee you...
It just leads to disappointment.
Yeah, it will. You'll be disappointed. Just don't date people who are going to give you that same energy back. I think I read somewhere too, it was like, oh, look, I'm kind of talking to this girl and, sometimes she responds and it just goes cold. So I said, oh, well, what, I won't worry about it. But then all of a sudden she kind of, messages me and, sends me a cute picture or something and asks me what I'm doing. And it's very hot and cold. So what I found out was like, it's a bit of a red flag. They're not really, invested in you as a person. They just want you for attention whenever they're feeling a bit lonely, right? Or when they feel like they want someone to validate them. So, and it goes for both guys and girls, right? It goes both ways. So to me, it's a red flag in that when you are interested in someone, obviously you communicate these things. And if they're not, they should communicate back. And if they give you some wishy-washy halfway in between answer, then you should know pretty well, I think, how to communicate that as you grow older.
Well, that's the green flag, isn't it? Yeah. Regardless of what boundary and how you are, it's how well do you communicate that to the other person.
Communication, Huge green flag.
Oh,
Now,
it's like the greenest flag of
what
green
does
flags.
communication look like, Byron? What does it sound like to you? What does green flag communication look and sound like?
I mean, for me, it is about trying to, not just trying, but you can also ask like what the other person might be thinking, feeling, like needing.
Yes.
And then being able to communicate what you can about your experience to satisfy that condition, right? Because, I mean, you don't have to over communicate stuff in order to make people feel like they've been heard.
Yeah.
But because going too far is also too much. Like I'm not the type of person who wants to hear everything all the time.
Of course.
Like I like if I have a question, then I just like the question to be answered, and aside from that, that's it. But yeah, I mean beyond that, it's so I'm getting a little bit distracted. Beyond that, it is communicate. Sorry, there's stuff happening off screen. I've now been completely thrown. So
Let's go.
communication's good, Jeremy.
It is good. Yep. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Far out. I don't remember what I was saying.
One thing I was going to bring up on that. Look, I'll pick up the ball here. It's okay. I'll run with
Please,
it.
please. I just fumbled it all over the go.
I gotcha. So, yeah, look, with communication, I think it's a matter of, like you said, communicating what you're thinking, what you're feeling, right? I think a red flag is when you ask, okay, cool, like, I see that you're upset. Could you tell me, what's happening? What's making you feel upset?
Yes.
And they go,
Yes.
well, you should know. Or they tell us like,
I don't like that.
or it's like you should know exactly what I'm thinking. It's like, no. Maybe over time as you get closer, you'll get to understand people's mannerisms more. But even still, if someone's upset, it can be a matter of, oh, look, I don't want to talk about it right now. That's much better communication. I was like, oh, look, it's this and this. It's a pretty difficult situation. I don't want to talk about it. If it's something like that, then great. But if it's something where you feel like the other person needs to understand you because they love you, or they should know what you're thinking or feeling because they're very good at reading people, it shouldn't be the case in which someone has to make you guess how they're feeling. It's not good communication, which is a red flag.
I think even when you get to that point of like, let's say getting to know someone and like, well, you should know how I'm feeling about this at this point. It's like, look, even if they should know, there is no harm in having a conversation again.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, honey, like, I imagine you're probably upset about this. I'm sorry for my behavior, but can you please let me know what you're actually doing, thinking, feeling, whatever. Because if we just constantly get to that point where, well, you know how I feel about that and you should do something about it and you should have apologized, right? It's like, the word should? If someone shoulds a lot, that's a red flag for me. Should. Why should anybody should? I'm like, should is like, there's probably someone who says it really well, but I feel like when someone shoulds on something else, it's identifying a gap in between two things, and it's the place where pain like takes place.
Yeah.
So I should go to the gym, which means I know gym is good. I'm currently not going to the gym, and as a result, it's causing me a problem in the middle.
Yeah.
But by saying you should do it, you're just highlighting that pain, right?
Good point.
So instead, if you wanted to be healthier, Byron, you could go to the gym today. You're right, I could. I'm not doing it at the moment. All right, now I have an option. Do I go to the gym to fix my pain? Okay, let's do it. Do I not go to the gym because I don't feel like it? Well, now I've made a choice. But no one's like told me that, and said, should something happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's me. That's just a little in the middle of communication.
No, should's a red flag. Should this, should that, should not. But just tying on to that, while we said, could you, like, I see that you're feeling like this, like, can we talk about it? Like, what's going on? But if they constantly goes like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I never want to talk about it. That, to me, shows lack of emotional vulnerability, lack of trust, lack of just being able to talk about these things. Again, lack of communication, I suppose. But in this case, if someone that you are romantically interested in is unable to open up to you for some reason, that, there might be something there. And that's understandable. That's fine. And some people will just need some time to get comfortable, right?
Yeah.
However, if it's someone who just never seems to ever be able to open up, to be ever able to talk about these things, and they don't see that as a problem, but it's obviously causing harm between the two of you, because there's miscommunication, someone's not understanding something, then
Yeah.
that is a red flag. Because at the end of the day, a healthy relationship or even any kind of friendship or situationship.
I was going to say, it happens with friends too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You obviously want to understand what someone's going through and how you can best support them, how you can best help them. But if they never want to open up and talk about those things, and you keep screwing up because you don't know how to act or react around them because they're not telling you about it, then that's not your fault. It's, well, I want to talk. How can I support you? But say, I don't want to talk about it. It's unfortunately a red flag because these things need to be discussed. And if it is difficult for you to open up and talk about things, you definitely need to figure out how to support yourself and how to have those conversations because it is extremely important to be able to do so.
Most definitely. The good thing about that flag is that you can do something about it, I feel. Like really, you can be very proactive towards working on that one, right? Because I mean, I'll be honest, that was one of my, and still to this day, I struggle with a little bit. I'm very bad about opening up about how I feel about something, right? Like, and it can be, I'm thinking about work and I'm stressed because of that, or there's all these deadlines that are coming up and I don't want to talk about it, or, you know, thinking about money and how we've got X, Y, Z bills to pay. And like, you just always
internalizing it.
For me personally, always internalizing stuff, right? And then that changes my demeanor. So then my partner's like, oh, yeah, are you okay? Are you upset with me? I'm like, look, I'm not upset with you, but I'm all good. I'm fine. Right?
I'm fine. Ew, that's the...
No, I'm fine. That's a red flag. I'm fine. But it is that lack of initial ability to communicate sometimes that has gotten like us to a point where it might be 2 or 3 conversations later.
Right.
It's like, hey, like, seriously, are you, like, can I help in any way? It's like, no, you can't help. And I've gotten better at saying, oh, look, all right, here's the general gist. Right? It's not really something that we can solve because a lot of the time it's just my own ruminations on pain points in our life.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's not something we can solve with a conversation. However, here's how I'm feeling about it, you know, and hopefully that satisfies like your brain and your need to understand what's going on as well. And then like it happens. But in the past, oh boy, there's stone wall. Right? Like I'm talking 5-6 years ago. Oof. You could ask me something and I would just be like, nah, don't care if you get hurt by me not telling you, don't need to know. But I got therapy.
And that helped a little bit. That helped melts down those stone walls a little bit.
Oh, yeah, they're not so much stone walls or concrete walls anymore. They're kind of like little hurdles, but at the very least, you could get past them. So,
yeah, well, that's nice to hear.
You can do something about it.
I mean, I don't feel like you've ever been too stoic with me or too defensive every time we've had a discussion about anything in particular. I mean, Byron, we had a talk about men touching men and sex and all these other juicy things. And so, yeah, no, it's kind of interesting to hear that from you. But I suppose, obviously, conversations that you'd have with your intimate partner are definitely going to be different to ones that you have with friends for the most part. So that'll be a different kind of situation in there.
Well, especially on the partner side of things, they're the person who spends the most time around you, right?
Yeah.
And so they get the whole plethora of the ups and downs, and they're immediately affected by whatever is happening in your life, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's the like it's kind of like a sad fact, I guess, that you know when they cop anything that we are feeling. Because they feel it, like just by being
in the same proximity, the same room as you. So
yeah, and you're like, oh, and that's where you hear like, oh, I always take stuff out on my partner, or my partner feels like I take stuff out on them. Like you come home from work, it's been a real crappy day, it's been really stressful. And you're like, no, honey, I don't want chicken on my plate. I want steak. How dare you put the chicken on the plate? Blah. And it's like, well, it's not their fault, you know. But they're the one who gets all the blow off, and that's a really easy trap to fall into.
Yeah, that is.
And it just because it's an easy trap to fall into doesn't mean it's acceptable, right? Because it's not like when you decide to partner with someone in whatever capacity, right? If you decide to bring someone closer into your life and you have that proximity on more occasion than not, you almost have a small responsibility towards them to make sure that you're not making their life worse, right?
Yeah.
Like don't make their life shittier. They go through stuff too. And they're not allowed to project their shit onto you as well, but you can support each other in whatever capacity you can. Anyway.
I mean, that's
relationships.
the objective of a relationship at the end of the day, right? When you
Big time.
come into each other's lives, you should be making each other's lives better. You should be adding something to their life, not taking something away. So,
Correct.
if you do find yourself in that situation where, all I seem to be doing is making their life miserable, or they make my life miserable, well, doesn't sound like a very healthy relationship to be in if that's the case, right? Oh dear. But
what about over communicating? Like, so on the opposite end, so I just talked about under communicating.
yeah.
And this one I feel like is good between friends and new acquaintances as well. Is where on the spectrum of green to red is over communicating, like emotions, feelings, thoughts, opinions?
It's funny, like,
And what is over communicating?
that's a good question. Let's say we go at the spectrum of under communicating to over communicating. I think under communicating is definitely the greater of the two evils in this case.
Yeah.
But if we were going to lean, I would prefer someone to slightly over communicate. I'd rather someone to be more communicative than not. So I think overly communicating would be those times in which people say, yeah, TMI. That's you're telling me a bit too much that I don't need to know, man. Or in this case, you're asking about things which are not necessary to know. Right?
Yeah.
So over communicating, very plain example, is like, oh man, feeling shit because, went to the doctor, had this, got this diagnosis, now I've got this, gonna be dead in 2 weeks, It's like, whoa, let's start off with like, oh man, how you doing? It's like, oh, my mom feels like a man went to the doctor, had a bit of a bad time there. It's like, oh, do you want to talk about it? It's like, oh, we can talk about it if you want. Like, you okay to listen? So it's kind of those, let's step it up in bits. And I think guys especially get caught in the trap of over communicating too fast, too much, because we simply just don't communicate enough in general. Right?
Yeah, and then if we get a chance and we feel like it's a safe space,
we dump it all in one spot.
It's just all gone. Yeah.
So the key with everything is do everything in bit by bit by bit by bit. You can't become you can't put on 10 kilos of muscle overnight. You can't become a world-class piano player overnight. You can't, instantly cure your cold overnight. Well, some colds you can, but it's not something that can be cured immediately. Right? Just in the same way with forging bonds with people, you can't become best friends immediately. It's something that needs to be done gradually. So, in the same way with communication, don't tell them your life story, all of your trauma, everything you've been through, all in one conversation. It's going to be way too much, too quickly. And this is where people say, whoa, I can't handle this guy. Oh, whoa, this guy doesn't seem to have a grip on his emotions because you dumped everything on me in one spot. And this is where, guys have been told, I don't think this is going to work out. You're a bit too intense to me. You're a bit too emotional in that way.
Yeah.
Because it's just too much too quickly. Right?
And you know what's kind of sad about this whole notion?
What's
is
that?
Like, so, because you see stories of stuff like where guys like, oh, I poured my heart out, and then the girl or whoever, the other guy, was like, no, like, back off, you're being a weak man. So it perpetuates this cycle. There's like, because there's, I'm not going to say wrongdoings, but because there's not an actual, standard operating procedure around how to do stuff, and everybody has a limit for what they can and can't accept at the start or even later on. Like, Jeremy, there's times when you say to me, oh, I've never heard this part about you before. And I mean, we've been friends for a good while now. It's like, it's only just coming to the surface now because it's at a relevant point.
Yeah.
But if I had at the start been like, Jeremy, let me tell you about every trauma I've ever had and how shitty an existence I had.
I'll be like, whoa, I might have to step back from this guy. It's a bit too intense. Yeah.
But when it happens, they then, or this narrative has been created that, oh, guys shouldn't chat, because you're too emotional and you dump too much stuff and it's just too much. Or like they then think for themselves, well, I'll never try that again. It's like, but you tried one method that is probably not the best method to have led with. All right. So like I would encourage anybody out there, boy, girl, anything, right? If you are trying to communicate something, right, do it in pieces for one. Try talking to people, and then you ask if people are ready to receive the information that you wish to deliver. All right. So if it's coming up in conversation, just be like, "Oh, do you want to hear about the time that I was assaulted?" No, not particularly. Like, that sounds pretty awful, and I'm
Yeah.
kind of just trying to drink my tea, and we just met. So no, it's not a good idea.
Not a good idea, yeah.
But hey, if you're friends and you're out one night and you're like, hey man, how you feeling? You're like, oh, I'm just, Jeremy, did I ever tell you about the time that bad stuff happened to me? No. Do you want to talk about it? Yeah. Okay. Go on, man.
Let's get a beer.
Get it off your chest.
Let's do this. Yeah.
Right. And it's like there's a different way of entering into that conversation that is healthy.
Yeah.
And talking about it is healthy. It just has to be talked about with the right people in the right way. Right? You've got to understand the other person.
It's interesting.
well.
I think because naturally our instinct is, we feel in a safe space where we can share everything with this person.
Which is amazing.
Which is amazing.
Good job.
It is just unfortunately an issue with guys particularly in that we don't, because of manliness and ego and don't want to seem weak, etc., we don't tell our problems to the boys typically. We don't share these stories because either they're going to take the piss, they're not going to take it seriously, and that's a problem with guys.
Or because we don't do it, they also don't do it. Yeah. So we've never done it for each other. So we're like, it just must not be done.
Yep, we don't as I talk. So who
happens.
do they talk to? They will talk to their romantic partners or their mothers or their girlfriends who are going to act as their mothers or their therapist.
Or the girl that has now shown some interest in them, right?
Yep.
Because it's the most talking that they've ever done. Or not ever, but you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, it's the most talking they're doing right now. So like, oh, great.
And so what do we decide to do is like, let's tell them everything. Let's tell them about trauma. Let's tell them about everything I've grown up with, my ex-girlfriends, blah, blah, blah. It's the one place that they can vent. And like you said, it unfortunately creates this narrative of like, wow, this guy is, you used good terms before, was it? They pull their heart out too fast, they're too emotional or something. Which perpetuates a cycle of like, I opened up this one time, I'm going to not open up ever again. I'm going to stonewall myself off, and talking up and opening up to girls is bad. And I think, unfortunately, that's where the narrative comes from.
Yeah, I was quickly just thinking on the fact of why. Like, apart from the fact that it is just a chance to talk.
Yeah.
Right? I as a kid, I wonder if it almost emotionally ingratiated them to me. Like, hey, I'm sharing this precious secret with you.
Yeah.
Now you have my secret. Perhaps you'll like me more. In some sort of capacity, like you'll feel for me, you'll have this stronger, deeper connection with me as a result of me sharing this trauma with you, because it comes from a place of trust. And I do actually wonder if it's in the brain, it's kind of seen as like this is like a bonding exercise.
I think it's
like,
trauma
bonding.
This is how
I bond.
Right? If someone else,
well, there's the
that's
term,
a trauma bonding.
But yeah, like in a romantic aspect. Do you trauma bond with your partner when you're first getting started? The strategy.
That should not be the foundation of a relationship bonding. You should be bonding over shared values, right? Shared interests, shared experiences. That's what the start of a relationship is. And if the foundation is that, cool. Now we can introduce other things and see if we're able to work with them as well. But if the foundation is, we're together because we shared trauma, that's why we're romantically involved, that is not necessarily the greatest foundation for a relationship. Yeah. So,
what other red flags and green flags have we got?
Red flags, green flags.
Jeremy?
So let's think about this. Okay, so let's dive a little bit into self-reflection now, because we've kind of spotted them in other people, right? Lots of things like talking about the ex or opening up way too quickly, way too much, right?
Yeah.
Or just not opening up at all. So these are all flags in themselves. But if we're talking about stuff that we can self-identify, you've already done it for yourself a little bit, Byron. Just kind of talking a bit about, I used to stonewall, I used to not do these kinds of things, and that's helped me open up. But just in the way that we can react, or even again, we can spot this in other people, but it's good to be self-aware about these things for ourselves.
Yeah.
I think we were talking a little bit about this already, just about people being negative, but when we ourselves tend to be really critical about something, or we're insecure about something, so we will, put someone else down. Oh, actually, I just thought of one big one around this point is one-upping. One-upping. So if anyone, I'm glad you laugh because you know exactly what I'm talking about, but it's when,
I sure do.
I'm talking about like, oh man, had a real tough day at work today, just tough clients and, all that kind
Not
of
as
thing.
tough as mine, Jeremy. Let me tell you.
Oh, listen, I work in customer service. You wouldn't understand, right? It's when you're telling a story, you're sharing an experience, and the only thing the other person can comment, or the first thing they comment, is like, "Oh, that's nothing compared to my experience. You wouldn't understand."
Yeah.
So, oh god, I had this many times, especially with as we've all got that uncle, we've all got that auntie. It's like, "Oh man, how's life been?" It's like, "Oh, it's been pretty good. It's been been a bit stressful, but working through it." First thing comes out of his mouth, "Oh, stress. Let me tell you about stress, what I've been through." Like literally word for word. Because the guy was out of work at the moment, and he was kind of just in between jobs and all this kind of thing. Had a mortgage to pay off, but that's beside the point, bro. You just asked me about what I've been through. I'm not kind of asking to compare things. So the one-uppers is something that happens, and I know it's the same thing of, I want to share my experiences with you so we can connect, but the shared experience shouldn't be a comparison. It shouldn't be I'm going to make sure my experience is more than yours or worse. So I don't believe, because I'm so disgusted by it, I don't believe I've ever done that myself. If I have, Byron, then you let me know, or just you call me out and it's like, "Jeremy, did you just try to one-up me with your experience?"
No, I honestly don't feel like that's something we've ever had to deal. I've seen it in other people for sure. I do think about sometimes, like, not to the same degree as one-upping, but I can find myself caught up in thinking about what I want to say next.
Yeah.
And so I stop listening to the other person, which is not, like, when you're having a conversation, ideally, we're giving them our undivided attention.
Of course.
Right? And naturally, we start to think about, what the next part of the conversation might look like. But, I mean, that's I don't think it's necessarily a red flag per se, but it's when it does get to that point of, I just don't care about you anymore, Jeremy. You're going to listen to my problems, and your stress means nothing, and my stress is everything. That is the red flag.
Yeah.
So
I think it's like you said, because we go to anime conventions. If anyone doesn't know us by now, we go to anime conventions. We talk to people and
dress up.
Yeah, for some reason, it's a very common thing. Whenever I talk to someone for the first time, it's like, "Hey man, I haven't seen you in a while." Or, "Hey, really nice to meet you. What you been up to? What do you like to do?" And for some reason, I'd say a good 50, 60, like leaning towards the majority of the time when I talk to someone, the first thing they'll tell me about is not their triumphs or the good things that have happened to them. It's the bad things that have happened to them. It's like, "Oh man, I've been stressing, I've been struggling, I haven't had much sleep, doing this. I just had I kid you not, I went to a music concert, which was like the Miku concert. And we ran into someone and I said, "Oh, hey, look, I haven't seen you in a while. How's things?" "Oh, my best friend right there. See her right there? She's just not talking to me." It's like, I don't know what I'm like.
She wanted social skills coaching, Jeremy.
Sucks.
She needed your help right then and there.
I know it's one of those things, but it's just like, I don't know you that well. Just, we're catching up, seeing how's life. Did you enjoy the concert? Are you excited for it? But no, this is the stress going on in my life, and I need to tell this person I barely know all about my stress.
Yeah.
So
it's hard.
It is.
It's a tough one, but one-upping is not good.
How about ghosting, Byron? How about ghosting or a very delayed message? That's an interesting one here.
I don't intentionally ghost or delayed message. Probably where I fall on this spectrum is if I'm not impressed with you, like at this present point in time, I'll internalize my what do you call it? What's the word? I don't know why I keep thinking of discomfort, but it's not discomfort. I'll internalize my opinion of you, let's say, because I can't even think of what I'm trying to say. But I'll internalize that, and then I do shut down a little.
Right.
Like, so because I, for the most part, think to myself, this is not actually a problem, like, that is worth discussing.
Yep.
It's my own take on a situation, and I need to come to terms with the fact that it's actually not a problem worth pursuing.
Yep.
I'll internalize it, and then, but as a result of doing that, sometimes that cue comes across and they're like, "Oh, did I upset Byron?" And they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Again, there's that, "Yeah, I'm fine." I'm like, "No, I'm good. I'm good." Because in that moment, I'm not actually being very empathetic towards, like, maybe if I just said, "Hey, you keep doing this thing and it's pissing me off. Would you mind stopping? Maybe that would solve it a little bit faster.
Yep.
But that's my version of ghosting.
Right.
And eventually, like, I get over it. So I'm like, yep, nah, it wasn't actually a problem. I was just being a baby.
Yep.
And then it's like, no, back to normal. But ghosting, I feel, if especially actually in any sort of arena, dating, relationships, friendships, partners, whatever. If you actually have a problem, and instead of like addressing it or finalizing an interaction with someone, you just bugger off into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's not nice. That is a red flag.
It is. And look, I think it's one of those things where people can say, oh, forgot to reply, or the conversation wasn't going anywhere. I think for myself personally, because especially with social media, you reply to someone's story or you have a short chat about something, inconsequential. You have a bit of a chat kind of ends, doesn't really go anywhere. Then, whatever. Yeah. That's the end of a conversation. But if there is an active conversation going about something, particularly if it's about making plans with someone, then it's like,
and just disappear.
It's like, bro, come on, like have a chat and see where it goes. There's obviously with dating, there's a bit of an art to it as well. But in the same way, if it's like, oh, cool, like we're making plans to do X, Y, Z, let's go. And you've confirmed it. Then if you don't want to do it, then just tell them I don't want to do it anymore, right?
Yeah.
Or if rather than
That's
just like
fine.
not showing up or just blocking and deleting. I know it's a bit more difficult for a lady to do, just with the way that guys can react. What's the word? Viscerally.
Yes,
it's a good word I had this morning, but because of that, I understand why it kind of happens. But at the same way, it's like that's reflective of the person who's not responding. That's just kind of how they are. God, no, Byron, I told you this morning as well, man, all these lessons that I learned, because, I follow these dating coaches online, and they're very informative, and it's like, wow, I wish I had the self-respect to do that years ago. Would have made life a lot easier and less stressful, but no, it's funny, because one of the things I did do, I don't know if you ever do the same thing, but phones, apps have notifications, right? When something happens, your energy is restored in your video game, someone sends you a message, I turned off all of my notifications for all of my social medias, even my messenger. So the only way someone can call me is if they give me a phone call on my actual number, right? Otherwise, I think there was some stupid level of anxiety that I got from sending a message to someone. I put my phone down, and then they reply back, and it's like, oh God, I have to reply to them. I have to not reply to them. I have to time my replies.
Got to keep the cycle going. Yeah.
And the only time I reply now is like, oh, well, I guess I'll pick up my phone and open social media, and that's like me actively engaging with whoever I happen to be messaging at that point in time. So it's
No, I have done that, and I've probably taken it a step further where my phone is on Do Not Disturb, and there's my brother, and Danny, who are on the list of people who can get through the Do Not Disturb, which sounds awful.
Do you do that?
Yeah. So like
on a social weekend when we're making plans all the time, Byron? Does it also happen like that?
Terribly, I have it on all the time. So I just haven't turned it off. But I try to be like, see, for instance, like with us, like I kind of did it to you the other day where we forgot to keep you updated on what we were doing on Sunday night when we have our normal catch up. I was like, oh fuck. I did not ahead of time let you know that we wouldn't be there. And I know you're like, oh, it's all right, Byron. You kind of mentioned it the other day, and I sort of just figured, but I was like, no, it's still like it still shows a lack of like forethought towards how it would impact your day.
Right.
And I don't like it when people do it to me. So that's why I was like, I'm really sorry. But yes, it's like I need to probably change that setting a little. Because it is so easy to just disconnect from now that everything is done through phones. Like I had a company try and call me about a brand deal the other day, and they called me and I didn't get the phone notification, right? And then they left me a voicemail, and then they called me again, and luckily I had my phone in my hand so I could see that she was leaving a voice recording.
Right.
Like I just happened to notice the notification. I was like, oh shit, hey guys, like it was meant to be at 2:30 and they were calling me at 2:10. So it's kind of not my fault.
Yeah.
I was just like, that could have cost me a deal, let alone a friendship.
Yep.
So, but yeah, it is, it's one of those things where we try and set boundaries that make sense, but how other people might interpret our lack of communication can be like, it's upsetting. Like no one wants to feel like we don't care. especially amongst friends or partners and
Yeah.
things like that. It's not a nice feeling. So, yeah.
I think
Sorry for Sunday.
no, that's all good, man. We'll make it up to each other hopefully this Sunday. I hope nothing's going on. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
No, it's interesting because my partner in the same way, she has it on Do Not Disturb all the time. So it is close to impossible to
It's a
have the phone
Scorpio
call.
thing.
But I think that's living in a world of convenience. It's one of those things where we can conveniently call this person at an inconvenient time. So I think as time goes on, when we are having more busy than ever, we're more connected than ever, I think it's important to have those boundaries for ourselves. Even if it is an inconvenience to other people, it's like, well, yeah, sorry, man. Like, I'm a busy man. You're gonna have to send me an email, we'll have to line something up, kind of thing. So,
yeah.
But
well, actually, in that same vein, then, because I know we don't have too long left, but in that same vein, with respect to specifically amongst friends, only reaching out when they have a problem or like, hey, Jeremy, I'm moving. Would you mind coming to help?
Yeah, that's a good one. I had to think about this recently, quite literally, because I've got a friend who I had thing for at one point in time, and obviously I had to realize some things that they weren't that engaged with conversation, kind of a bit flaky with a lot of things, and they're going to be moving into state soon, and so I kind of thought to myself, it's like, well, if I did reach out, is that really going to matter too much? I sort of messaged anyway. It's like, oh, look, you're moving. Let's catch up if you feel like it. But if they don't, it doesn't really matter. Because I am with someone who always gave me the time of day. Someone who always was engaged, always kind of had that same level of attention, which was nice.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, with close friends, is that appropriate? Is that kind of where you're going with it, or?
Well, because I was sort of reflecting on maybe a red flag within myself. And I have the experience of, I have a really good mate, and we've been friends for a very long time.
Yeah.
And now the blue, he'll just call me, right? Just because he'll be driving home and be like, hey man, just wanted to check in, catch up.
That's cool.
And yeah, which is amazing. And then I think to myself, fuck, like if he didn't do that, would I be doing the same thing? And I'm like, it kind of, because I I truly treasure that friendship that I have.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why don't I, just occasionally out of the blue give him a call? Like, am I the red flag in this situation? And I do kind of feel like I am. And I'm always apologetic, and I always am like, oh, look, man, I love you. I'm really sorry. I've truly, and now I've come to rely on him actually giving me a buzz. But even yesterday, we had friends over we haven't seen for over 6 months.
Yeah.
Right? And the only reason we caught up is because they came to the convention that we were at on the weekend. Like, oh, I know you guys are busy and, I don't understand. I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. We haven't obviously reached out once. That's not very good of us. I am sorry.
Yeah.
Like, we do value as friends. Let's just lock it in. And I can make all the excuses about how I'm busy and calendars and all this sort of shit, but I haven't invested any time in the friendship that we've developed.
Yeah.
That's not nice. Right? It's not nice.
It's a good self-realization, I think, to have something like that. Because if I think about it now too, myself, because I've had both sides. I've had friends who have just called me up when they needed something, and that friendship ultimately ended because it's like, wow, this guy's unfortunately very narcissistic, and it took me 15 years to kind of realize this. Again, this is me learning, right?
We all learn.
But yeah, no, the friendship is obviously a back and forth thing. We hang out because it's fun. They respect each other's time, and it's like you said, you put effort into the friendship beyond just needing something.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because I think about that with. I don't think I've talked about tiers of friendship on this thing yet, but any very good friends that
coming into the book 2026, Jeremy.
It's coming. I've got this book that I'm writing, guys. If anything, that's a really good point to bring out, whether it be friends that you treasure their friendship or family that you treasure their company. I think it is a good thing to kind of keep in mind. It's funny though with family, because all of I've got 2 siblings, obviously both my parents. I've got 2, like a niece and a nephew now, but with those 5, 6, 7, I've got a brother-in-law. So with this family of like 8 people now, well, immediate family, all of our birthdays are in different months. So within a month, guaranteed, we're pretty much going to catch up. Obviously, we don't catch up as much as I could outside of those things, or Mother's Day or Christmas or that kind of thing. So that's unfortunately my excuse. Like, oh, I've seen you a few times this month, and I'll catch up next month for this kind of thing. They also live 45 minutes away now too, which is a bit of a hike. So it's a bit less easy to do these days. But no, you make a good point just about friendships that I do treasure. I think it's lucky that we chat every week without fail because we've got podcast stuff to do.
We got a podcast.
That helps. But no, I think about other friendships. It's funny because I do think about other friends that I do have, and the social chemistry isn't as natural. They're still very good friends, still treasure them. But it's one of those things like, yeah, we'll catch up, have a coffee, have a beer or something. But after that hour or two, it's like, oh, we'll catch you in another month or two because haven't. I suppose they're not as. They don't get up to as much. I think you get up to so much behind. It's like, well, tell me what happened this week. It's like, oh, let me tell you what happened this week.
I come with an itemized list. Oh. It's like,
all right, this is the hot news of the day. This is kind of like side news, and this is like, oh, this could potentially be something fun to talk about. So,
yeah.
But
well, you know what? Maybe in this respect, then it's kind of a case of like if I had to have green flags for this type of situation, it's the people who reach out and continue that connection. They're a green flag,
despite the level of chemistry between you, they still treasure you and they decide to reach out. I agree, 100%. Big green flag.
So that's one. The other one is when you, like, let's say in my instance, I'm like, like crap, I'm really sorry, I haven't done it, and you can kind of acknowledge the fact that you've let them down. I think that's it. Not to like big note myself or anything, but I think that's important.
Yeah.
And being able to actually apologize for the lack of care and then try and do something about it, I think is a green flag behavior. And then what was I going to say? The last part of it is being able to, like, no one holds any resentment, I think is the next part. So if you don't get reached out to and then you do the reaching out, it's not doing it to bait them into being like, oh, well, look how much better of a friend I am. Because if you do that, then you're a red flag. So green flag is doing it without any reservation or, reciprocation required necessarily, which gets a little bit tricky, I guess, but... Yeah. Red flag is if you say you're friends and then you call me up because all you want me to do is move your boxes from left to right. And I'm like, oh, that's not
very nice,
Don't
is it? Don't do that.
No.
Oh, dear. Anyway, yeah, that's definitely food for thought. I never really thought about some of these things too much until we kind of started talking about it. So that's nice. Anyway, good chat, Spine. Good yap. This was our episode, guys, on green flags, red flags. Again, just a little plug. If you guys enjoyed our vibe, you enjoyed what we talk about. If you've got any suggestions for what we'd like to talk about, please send us a message.
That's where last week's episode
Instagram.
came from.
Yeah, our last episode was one of our fan requested topics, which was a really good topic actually. Just send us a message on Instagram. Just Ben Podcast. We'll be happy to have a yap and take into consideration anything you guys have to suggest to us. But till then, thanks very much for listening in. If this is your first time listening in, thanks very much. Hopefully we'll see you again next week. And if you're returning again, thanks again for your continued support. We really appreciate our little community. But we'll catch you again next week, and we'll talk more. Oh, yeah, we'll just talk more stuff. We'll be good.
We'll just talk more.
That'd be great.
We'll keep yapping.
It'll be awesome. All right. Anyway, thanks, guys. We'll see you around.
Love ya.
Bye.
Bye.